Hello and welcome to my channel, Watercolor Painting in the Afternoon. I'm Beth. Today I wanted to paint a very simple landscape. One I think anybody with some watercolor and a little bit of time, some brushes and a good sheet of paper can do. Today I'm just going to use my regular little palette here, which I probably need to clean up a little bit, but we'll see how that goes. And I'm going to use this, I guess you pronounce it Beohong watercolor paper. This is their satin grain, which is not quite, it's for one thing, it's all pasted down, so I'm not going to have to stretch this out. It's on a block, but it's not quite hot press, and it's not quite cold press. So I think it's a good combination, and we're going to just see how this works. We're going to see how it goes. But this is a very simple landscape that I think just about anybody can do. If you want to give it a go with me and think about your own composition here, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So let's begin with an idea of our landscape and how big we want the sky and how big we want the land. So you can have a smaller sky up here, you know, and a bigger land mass down there, and you'll be drawn more to the details down here. Or you can have a great big, you know, dramatic, beautiful sky up here, and we're going to put maybe just a little bit of a landscape down here. And I think that's where I'm going to go. I'm going to go with a big dramatic sky. So here we go. I'm going to give this a try. Let's use a bigger brush since we're going to do that. This is a 3/4 inch flat, and I'm just going to wet it down. I'm not going to wet it down terribly evenly, but I do want to kind of delineate my horizon line right here, you know, pretty much right about there. And then we're just going to kind of flop this water around. Get it over all the way to the edge. I think that's important unless you've taped your paper. Then try to get that water to the edge. And then we're going to drop in some blue. Now I've just got turquoise blue here, which I love for a sky. And let's get that a little bit darker. I want some drama in with the sky. And you can pick your paper up and kind of let gravity help you with your sky. It'll be beautiful and easy because the paint is going to paint for you. The watercolor is going to do some painting for you. And you can just make this a little bit darker if you want up at the top, and then come down, and we can kind of crisscross our brush a little bit and let that sky sort of paint itself. It's a lovely wash, it really is. And then we're gonna maybe put a few streaks that are darker in there as well. Okay, now, while this is wet, I'm gonna think about my landmass. So my landmass is gonna be down here. And I think the first thing I wanna do is maybe put in some trees. So let's think about greens. I'm going to start with this pretty olive green I have here. But I'm going to mix it in with some darker colors. You know that when you see something on the horizon, the further away you get from it, it starts looking a bit blue. So I'm going to add some blue. This is Prussian blue, or maybe it's cyan. I can't remember which one, but anyway, they're fairly similar. Cyan, cyan. That's a nice, fairly dark green. Let's put just a little bit of neutral tint in that, just to darken it up a little bit more. There we go. Now I'm going to just touch this in. I'm going to start touching it in on my horizon line with my big flat brush here. It doesn't have to be a tiny brush if you don't want it to be. I want to keep this loose, very loose. So the big brush is good for that. And look at how that is coming up and just bleeding right in there. And then we can make some little jagged edges here with our flat brush. And I'm going to come over here and maybe make a smaller area, maybe a little bit further back. This area is going to come forward a little bit more than the other. All right, now, should I connect them? That's a good question. I don't know. I think I will. I think I am going to connect these a little bit, just like that. Oh, I like that one little section right there. The good thing about doing this is that all kinds of cute little happy accidents happen, and you get to keep them, and you get to say, look what I did. And actually your paint did that, you know? But you don't have to tell anybody that. You don't have to say, well, the paint did that all by itself. You are working with watercolor, and that is a part of the magic of watercolor. All right, now let's think about our landmass down here. What are we going to have down here? How about we include some, I live in the South, so I like that clay color here. The red clay color that we have, this is just some burnt sienna. And I'm going to put it right there. Burnt sienna is so iconic in the South because of our clay. But we're just going to start back in here, and we're just going to kind of bring that forward. And you notice that I'm leaving some places white. And that's fine. That's what I'm trying to do. I want to leave certain places negative spaces. That's what we call it, negative spaces. And I'm going to come back in with some other colors. Let's go for some yellow. Now I'm kind of combining these two. This is Naples yellow, and this is a kind of a very light lemony yellow. So whatever colors you have that match that would be great. And we're going to put those down in here. What a beautiful color that is. And just pull it down here. And we may have to let this dry a little bit. If you would like some green in this, that's perfectly good too. Let's just smack some green in there. Let that come down too. Maybe this is more of a summery scene after all, isn't it? Yeah, I think it's more, it certainly doesn't look like a winter scene. So now I've got these beautiful striations in my foreground, and I'm going to let that dry a little bit, and we'll come back in a few minutes and we'll add some detail. All right, so this is pretty dry, and I've been giving some thought to what details I want to put on here. And this is always, for me anyway, this is sort of the scary part, because, you know, you think, oh, that looks pretty good. And you can leave it just like this, if this is what you want to do. It's a simple landscape. It's kind of color blocked in. It's okay. You could even frame that and put it up in your house somewhere. It would be really cute. But I'm going to take my very thin fine liner here. This is a 0.02, I think. Something like that. It's very thin. And let's put some tree trunks back in here. Now I don't want to put too dark of a color, because these are kind of in the distance, and they wouldn't be all that contrasty from that distance. So let's take our dark green. See, things in the distance, the colors start to kind of melt together, don't they? And you don't see quite as much contrast way off in the distance. But I want to make a very dark green here. And we're just going to put in a few little tree trunks where I think it's indicated. So maybe one right here. And it's going to come off this way. You know, you can play with this a little bit. I am definitely... I have a very unsteady hand. This is just probably my age, but, you know, hopefully your hand is steadier than mine. But anyway, we're going to put in just a few little branches here and there, just a few, to indicate that we are dealing with some trees back in here. And then I think I'm going to leave that one alone. And perhaps we can take a brush and come right back up in here with some brush, because you know how when you get the edge of a forest like that, or a little grouping of trees, there's often a lot of brush also in the, in the foreground, and you kind of have to, because that's where the light is. That's where the sunlight hits the forest edge, and a lot of stuff grows there. And you kind of have to hack your way through it if you want to get to the forest part. So I'm just going to tap in some hedges right in here, some little wild growing bushes, and bring it down this way. And maybe over here a little. I'm going to leave those negative spaces. I don't necessarily know what those are, but they're just little negative spaces, and I like them. Okay, I'm going to put maybe just a little bit extra right in here, just like that. Again, leaving some of those negative spaces. And you've got some depth now. In that forest area, you've got some depth, and it looks a lot more, maybe, I don't want to say realistic, because this is pretty loose, but it gives you a sense of what you're looking at. All right, now I think in the foreground here, I'm going to put a couple of large stones. I hope that is not a mistake, but I'm going to do it anyway. This is just ivory black. I'm going to take not too watery a mixture of ivory black. I want a nice thick mixture. And I'm just going to plop some stones down in here. I know, right? That's pretty bold, right? But, this little painting, it's going to have some character. Here we go. I put one right here, and then maybe there's one coming up that way. And the paint brush, because this paint is rather thick, the brush strokes are staying and they're showing a little bit. But beyond that, I want this to look as much like a good old rock in the middle of a field as possible. So I'm going to take my little, whatever you call it, yell my words, I'm missing, okay, palette knife, and I'm going to scrape out some highlights. Just scrape them right out. And I'm kind of pushing hard on this and making it so that you can see that underpainting there. How about that? There are my rocks. I'm not going to do any more than that. There they are. And I've also created just sort of some areas, that are in front of, just sort of a pattern in this field. And we can use that pattern to put some little grasses in there. So I think I'm going to come back over here where we have this little hill kind of appearing, and put some grasses behind it, and maybe some on it as well. Let's go ahead and do that too. I think I like that. I'm not going to overdo it. Let's make some of them tall. Some of them curvy. Okay. And let's bunch some of them together at the bottom, because grasses often grow that way, don't they? If you have them too spread out, if you just have lines too spread out, it's going to look like you painted it. It's going to look like, it's not grass. All right. Now to add just a tiny bit more color and a tiny bit more interest, I'm going to do a little paint flicking here. Let's use this one. This paint is just Turner's professional design gouache in white. And I'm doing that because the white watercolor is so transparent that when you're done, it really won't show up. But the gouache will. So I'm just going to tap that in. If it will come out, it won't. So I'm going to try getting a little bit wetter. All right. Sometimes it cooperates, sometimes it does not. So we have these little white things happening in the field. And I also, for one last little touch here, very quickly, I'm going to add a bit of color. Let's put some bright red. This is just alizarin crimson. Can you even see what I'm doing? Yeah, you can. Okay. Maybe in the grasses. Maybe in the grasses over here, there's just a little bit of red coming over here. Maybe it's kind of crawling up some of the grasses there because the grasses have some flowers on them or in them or something like that. And I think that just really adds a lot to the field. We might be able to add just a bit more color in our splats as well. Oops, try not to get them on the sky. But it's okay if you do. Just you can probably get that out fairly easily with just a little bit of water and a tap, tap, tap. Okay, not a problem. And that's it. That's all I'm gonna do. I think that makes it a lovely little landscape. I think that it makes a pretty little piece that you can just relax with. If you want to put, I'm just going to maybe break up some of these big areas here in the rocks. So that looks more rock-like. Oh, I'm going to fiddle with it, y'all. You know, I always do. I always mess with it. Probably too much. But that's it for today, and I hope that you've enjoyed this. I hope you'll try your own landscape and just have some fun with it. Put some detail in it. Enjoy yourself. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Appreciate it. See you next time.